Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video on the channel. So I was browsing through itch.io and I found some scary games that I'm going to play for you all. The first one being called The Watchers. Now I'm a big fan of aliens, like alien shit in games and horror films and stuff like that. So I found this demo game that came out in 2017 and I just wanted to give it a go. So without further ado, I'm just going to get straight into it. Apparently it's not very long. I do have multiple games in this video, so yeah. Thank you for playing The Watchers. The game is a work in progress, currently being developed by Jordan Winslow. The only completed route is the Don't Trust route, and that is suggested for your first playthrough, as the Trust route will not be finished until Q2 2018, even though it's 2022. Dim your lights, close out all external noise, get ready for visual novel experience like no other. I've written this book as the result of orders received and which I have obeyed. Further, it is an account of events that happened to me personally. This I affirm. I imagine that to some extent this extraordinary story will appear to some readers as science fiction, a story entirely invented, but I do not have the imagination that such a fabrication would require. This is not science fiction. The reader of good faith will be able to recognize the truth of the message I transmit from my new friends to the people of the planet Earth. This message, is by numerous references to races and religions, reflects neither racial nor religious bias on behalf of the author. Michel Desmoquet, January 1989. I awoke suddenly, not knowing how long I had slept. I was completely awake, fresh and alert, but good God, what time could it be? Lena was sleeping beside me, her fist closed, but then Lena always sleeps. I glanced out the window next to the bed, seeing the motion sensor light on the porch was shining into the window. I had no desire or to go back to sleep, besides it was probably at least 5 in the morning. I've been there. What I'd been dreaming of, I thought it must not have been a particularly happy dream because I did not feel very positive this morning. Maybe it was the rain. Can't believe it's still raining, I muttered to myself, being careful not to wake Lena as I slowly rolled out of bed and walked downstairs towards the kitchen. Good man, good man. Bananas, gimme. The wood paneling felt cold on my bare feet as I walked into the kitchen. I considered grabbing a banana off the counter, but it's something I wanted to check first. Glanced up at the old wooden clock that hung between the kitchen and the living room. Had it finally been busted? The hands read 12:30 AM. A tingling sensation on the back of my neck. I could have sworn it was at least 5 or 6 in the morning. Feeling a bit strange, I must have stood there staring up at the clock for at least a few minutes before it happened. What was that noise? It sounded like it came from my studio. Quickly turned around and saw something that made me forget about the sound I just heard. Someone was outside my window. Walked quickly into my studio and went straight to the window where there was no one outside. This wasn't, however, the most confusing thing. Not only do I live in Australia, but it's the middle of summer. Why is there frost on this window? What? Oh shit. Oh my god, I yelled as I desperately grabbed for something to hold on to. The walls stopped shaking, but there was a strange vibration lingering in the air, and it seemed to be growing in intensity. That's not an innuendo. I braced myself in fear, but it seemed whatever caused the window in the other room to shatter and my walls to shake had stopped long enough for me to somewhat regain my composure. If you're shaking someone's walls, you're doing a good job. Keep going. What the hell is this ringing sound? Lena, I yelled up the stairs to see if Lena had woken up yet. No response. Still on edge, my mind began running through possibilities as to what just happened. Earthquake? No, impossible. Explosion? Could my gas generator have somehow been damaged? No, that doesn't explain the window. While my mind was racing through various explanations to what was going on, my body felt as if it may vibrate completely apart. I wasn't in pain, but something inside me knew I had to get out of this room. What is going on? Lena, I called out in vain, preparing to head upstairs. But before I could, my mind went blank completely. To this day, I still can't explain what happened next. Neither can I explain why I went to my desk, took out a sheet of paper and a pen from the open drawer, and watched myself write as if my hand had a mind of its own. My dear, I'll be away for about 10 days. Absolutely no need to worry. That's not suspect at all. Leaving the note by the phone, I headed through the door and onto the veranda. Nice rocking chair. I avoided the table on which last night's chess game remained, with the white king still in checkmate. Walked down the stairs to the porch and down the gravel path to the barn. It's always barns, isn't it? It's always cows and barns being fucking... The night seemed to be suffused with an eerie brightness. To be fair, it looks pretty nice though. Instinctively I tried to recall what phase the moon was currently in, thinking that perhaps it was about to rise. Here in the northeast of Australia where I live, the nights are generally quite clear. Why am I outside? I had already walked down the stairs on my porch and around the side of the house before I realised my thoughts were starting to come back to me. What is that? I began to laugh. This is impossible. Oh, it's snow. At this point I began to think I must have been dreaming. Before there had only been frost in this window, and now the entire wall was coated in snow in the middle of an Australian summer. And it was too quiet. Usually at this time of night we'd have a veritable concert from the frogs and crickets whose chirring sounds filled the night. Now, however, there was a heavy silence. I headed towards the barn, still unsure what was motivating this decision. Maybe I was checking on the generator inside? Something's fucking with this guy's head. Something is messing with this guy. I'd only walked a few steps when quite suddenly the colour of the grass changed. The wall of the house too and the barn all were bathed in a kind of bluish light. The ringing sound was coming back. It felt as if all the empty space around me were filled with vibration. The grass seemed to undulate between my feet and the walls of the barn seemed to become less solid. It seemed as if even the stars began to lose their colour. Whoa. The sky became an impossible shade of black, the doorway to the barn destroyed, and the space around the barn roof was like looking at hot asphalt. I saw a faint blue glow through the barn window. Without thinking, I walked around to the side entrance to see if I could see anything inside. Is that the door? The first thing I noticed was the side entrance to the barn had been recently opened. It shouldn't be possible because I always keep it firmly closed in the summer to keep out the wild animals. The air around me, or perhaps it was in my head, was filled with noises I'd never heard before in my life. I wanted to escape that thing of noise. Cacophony? I think that's surrounding me. The barn was my only choice. Oh shit, I have choices? I'm going in the barn. I don't know that noise. Went through the side entrance to the barn where I felt a brief reprieve from the incessant vibrations outside. There was an unnatural blue glow illuminating the walls. I could hear voices. I couldn't tell if they were coming from my surroundings or perhaps I was just losing my mind. I couldn't make out any words. It was as if there were dozens of people muttering unintelligible sentences around me. I just wish this would end. The shadows felt like they were constricting around me. Was it truly a good idea to come in here? No. Oh shit. They're here, boy. Time stopped. I don't know what I saw. All I know is that I instantly regretted having entered that barn. Whoa. I acted in sheer primal terror. I was not going to stay here. I turned and ran, slamming my right shoulder hard into the barn door on the way out. Ignoring the pain in my shoulder, I continued running. I could feel the presence behind me. I ran up the gravel path toward my house. I was going to get Lena and get the hell out of here. My clothes brushed against themselves as I sprinted up the gravel pathway toward my house. My lungs were screaming in pain and I could feel my pulse in my ears, but I couldn't stop to catch my breath. I ran. Where are you running to? And ran. I could see the house right in front of me, but the more I ran, the further it seemed away. I realised as I kept running, not only was the house not getting any closer, but the stars had disappeared and wind was picking up. The strange blue glow seemed to pervade the sky and everything around me. It was as if a massive storm had formed above me in the past 10 seconds. Suddenly I couldn't move. It took all the energy I had just to turn my head to look at the approaching storm. The clouds were moving at an impossible rate, as if it was as if they were creating a vortex that was about to consume my entire property. I was hypnotized by the strange blue glow emanating from the clouds. My fear temporarily subsided and was replaced with a sense of wonder. And at that moment I felt myself lifted from the ground. Am I being abducted? Am I about to get fucked in the ass? I rose, slowly at first, above the crops and then quicker. I felt my skin become coated in a layer of moisture as I was pulled upward through the clouds until all I could see was the storm completely surrounding me. I don't know if I had simply run out of energy to be afraid or if I was simply becoming more delirious, but I remember thinking it was quite beautiful. As I drifted through the storm clouds, it was like entering another world. The colours were dull, there were strange distortions in the clouds that made me feel as if my eyes were going bad. I felt like closing my eyes, but I wanted to see every detail of what was happening in case these were final moments. I thought this was it, that I had finally lost my mind, either that or this was the most vivid nightmare I've had in my entire life. All is well now, Michelle, Michael, I don't know what his name is. Michelin Man. I was only slightly surprised to hear this voice inside my head. I had, after all, been hearing voices for the past 5 minutes now, but this one was surprisingly clear, as if whoever was speaking was right over my shoulder. I couldn't tell what direction was up anymore. I felt like I had changed direction, and soon enough I found myself falling through the storm and set down in some strange landscape I cannot even describe with words. Am I in a probe? Am I in a spaceship? Did I just get fingered? It was a vast landscape filled with an unnatural fog. Everything was coloured by a strange amber glow. And in front of me was something even more strange, if that were possible. Before me, a human being of impressive size, dressed in a one-piece suit and wearing a completely transparent helmet on her head, was looking at me, friendly and smiling. No, you are not dreaming. She spoke, answering the question in my mind. Yes, I replied, but it always happens this way in a dream, and in the end you find you've fallen out of bed and have a lump on your forehead. She smiled. Further, I continued, you're speaking to me in French, my native tongue, and yet we're in Australia. I do speak English, you know. So do I. She spoke on English. It has to be a dream, one of those stupid dreams, moreover. If not, though, what are you doing on my property? We are not on your property, but above it. Ah, it is a nightmare. You see, I was right. I'll pinch myself. I accompanied the words with the action. Ouch. She smiled again. Now, are you satisfied, Michelle? But if it's not a dream, why am I here? And who are these people over there, dressed in the fashion of the last century? I was beginning to distinguish in the milky light people talking, and at a slight distance others moving around. And you, who are you? Why aren't you normal sized? I am a normal size, Michelle. On my planet we are all this size. But everything in good time, my dear friend. I hope you don't mind me calling you that. I don't really trust her right now. Why would you think I would trust her after all that has just happened? Yeah, innit? This entity is probably responsible for everything that just happened to me. How can I even be sure that this is its true form? After everything I have seen in the past 20 minutes, I had to be on my guard. The thought that this entity may be responsible for my broken windows or the voices in my head, the letter I wrote as if I were a zombie. What if this was the thing I saw in the barn? What if it's some sort of shape-shifting monster? The thought terrified me, but I wouldn't succumb to fear this time. I decided I would wait for the perfect moment when it lets its guard down and I would get the fuck out of here. Yeah, call me whatever. I tried not to look at his face. I think it could detect my distrust. It feigned a smile. My name is Fao? Tao? But first I would like you to know once and for all that this is not a dream. Indeed, it is something quite different. For certain reasons which will be explained to you later, you have been chosen to undertake a journey which very few Earthlings have made, particularly in recent times. We are, you and I, at this moment, in a universe which is parallel to that of Earth. In order to admit you as well as ourselves, we have made use of an airlock, so to speak. At this instant, time has stopped for you, and you could remain here 20 or 50 of your earthly years, and then return as if you hadn't left. Your physical body would remain absolutely unchanged. I'm trapped in a parallel universe. I looked around and suddenly I realised there were other human beings here wearing Victorian-era clothing is because they had been trapped here for hundreds of years. I had to get out of here. Seeing what I was looking at, Fowl continued. These creatures exist as well as can be expected, and as you will learn later, population density here is very low. Death only occurs by suicide or accident. Time here is suspended. There are men and women, as well as some animals who are 30,000, 50,000, or even many more Earth years old. That's... I didn't have words to describe how fucked up this revelation was and how calmly this being spoke of it. Yeah, see, this is what I like about like alien plots, because I mean, I will admit this game's a bit weird. I didn't think it was gonna be just a text-based game. I thought it was gonna be like moving around and shit, judging from the screenshots. But hope it's not too boring. Anyway, I'm actually enjoying this. But that's really weird about alien stories like this, because it's always the case of the main character will get abducted, probed or something, and he'll come back down, and then he'll realise there's some sort of simulation and shit. And I find that really interesting, because it makes me wonder, like, what if, say, that happened to us in real life? What would we do? What would I do? If I got trapped in here, would I stay for 50 some whatever years, live like more of my life essentially, and then go back, still being 19 years old? That would be cool. But again, it's subject to opinion and subject to what you do, so yeah. How did they get here? Why have they been trapped here so long? They're all here by accident. Yeah, right, I'm just supposed to believe that. For all I know, I'm next. I asked, what do you mean accident? Afraid to hear the answer. It's very simple. You've heard of the Bermuda Triangle. Okay, okay, this is getting like Illuminati right now. Okay, let's be careful here. I nodded. Well, quite simply, in this spot and in others less well known, this parallel universe becomes confused with your universe, so that there exists between them a natural warp. People, animals, or even objects finding themselves in the immediate vicinity of a warp can be literally sucked into it. Thus, you can have, for example, an entire fleet of boats disappear in several seconds. Sometimes a person or persons can pass back into your universe after several hours, days, or years. More often, however, they never return. When a man does return and relates his experience, the vast majority of people don't believe him, and if he persists, he is assumed to be crazy. Most of the time, such a person says nothing about his experience at all, realizing how he will appear in the eyes of his peers. Sometimes too he returns amnesic, and if he recovers some memory, it is not of what happened in the parallel universe, and therefore sheds no light on the subject. After seeing I was still thoroughly interested, Fal continued. I think his name's Fal, or Tao. Oh, this is a nice landscape. This is Alaska, Canada? It was a typical case of this passage into a parallel universe in North America, where a young man literally vanished while going to fetch water from a well which was situated several hundred meters from his house. About an hour later, family and friends set out in search of him, and as there had been a fresh snowfall of about 20 centimeters, it should have been quite simple. They had only to follow the footprints left by the young man. Right in the middle of the field, the footprints stopped. There was no trees around, no rocks onto which he could have jumped, nothing strange or unusual. The footprints just stopped. Some people believed that he had been taken by a spacecraft, but that could have not been, as you will see later. This poor man had quite simply been sucked into the parallel universe. I have actually heard this before, I said. I remember reading about that exact story, but how do you know all about it? You'll find out later how I know. We were interrupted by the sudden appearance of a group of people so bizarre that, again, I wondered if this was all a dream. About a dozen men, accompanied by what seemed to be a woman, emerged from behind a pile of rocks a few hundred meters from where we were. The sight was even stranger since these human beings appeared to have stepped out of the pages of prehistoric records. But the gait of gorillas, they brandished enormous clubs which modern man would not have been able to lift from the ground. These hideous creatures were coming straight for us, howling like wild beasts. I made a move to retreat, but Tao told me there was nothing to fear and that I should stay still. She put her hand on the buckle of her belt and turned so that she faced them. Is she tasering them? Yep. We heard a series of several small clicks, and 5 of the strongest looking men fell to the ground motionless. The rest of the group stopped cleaning and began moaning. They prostrated themselves before us. I looked again at Fal. She stood like a statue, her face set. Her eyes were fixed on these people as though she was trying to hypnotize them. I later learned that she was giving orders by telepathy to the female of the group. Suddenly this woman got up and began, it seemed to me, to issue orders in a guttural voice to the others. They then helped remove the bodies, carrying them on their backs to the pile of rocks mentioned earlier. What are they doing? I asked. They will cover their dead with stones. Did you kill them? I had to. What do you mean? Were we really in danger? Of course we were. These are people who have been here for 10 or 15,000 years, who knows? Didn't have time to establish that, and besides, it is of no importance. Nevertheless, it illustrates well what I was explaining to you a few moments ago. These people passed into this universe at a certain time, and they have lived in that time ever since. I didn't like what Fal was telling me. I brought my hands to my head and began rubbing my temples. Finally taking some time to calm my nerves, I looked back up at the strange scenery around me, noticing for the first time a mountain range to my left. The warm air seemed to flow in every direction around me, calming me down at least a little bit. They shouldn't have had to die. I agree, however, it is part of a natural and therefore universal law. Furthermore, they are dangerous because they behave more like wild beasts than human beings. Dialogue would not have been possible between them and us, just as it is not possible between them and most of the others living in this parallel universe. For one thing, they are unable to communicate, and for another, they, less than anyone, understand what has happened to them. We were in real danger, and if I do say so, I have done them a favour just now of liberating them. Liberating, I said, trying to hide my disgust. This person, no, this alien, thinks that killing indiscriminately is liberating. It may have been protecting us, but I feel like I could easily become its next target if I wasn't careful. Don't look so shocked, Michelle. You know quite well what I mean by that. They are liberated from their physical bodies and now able to continue their cycle like every living being. Unable to control my emotions any further, I just said the first thing to come to mind. This place is a nightmare. How can you take part in this? Why did you bring me here? Without allowing it to respond, I continued. I didn't ask for this. You took me from my home against my will and you brought me to this hell. Who gives you the right to play God like that? As I said before, we brought you here because you are going to embark on a journey with us that no earthling has done in recent times. I was hoping to have your consent in the matter, but I understand how you must be feeling, given all that has happened to you today. I'm sorry, Michelle. I don't know what to think. On the one hand, it may be telling the truth. On the other hand, it may need my consent, and if I decide to trust this entity now, I may regret it in the future. I'm not going to trust it. I decided as soon as this creature lets its guard down, I was getting the hell out of here. I feigned acceptance of his apology and tried to continue the conversation. It's okay, I'm just feeling overwhelmed right now, I told her, surveying my surroundings carefully. Ahead of me was a long pathway down the hill with very little cover. To my right was a mountain range, and behind me, I hadn't actually looked behind me yet. Behind me was a paved pathway up the hill. I pretended like I was only casually interested when I asked. How was there a paved pathway behind us? I pointed up the hill. Think of this universe like a jigsaw puzzle, only instead of using pieces only from one box, it uses pieces from hundreds of thousands of boxes. This world is a combination of many different aspects of other universes and incorporates many aspects of Earth due to its location. Looking hesitant, it gave me a questioning stare that saw right through me. Why'd you ask? I couldn't very well tell her I was asking because I wanted to find the best area to hide once I got away from her. The truth was I wanted nothing more than to get out of here. I just had to make it think it had my choice, distract it and create an opportunity to run. Then it hit me. I realised I had no way of making it back home and started to panic. I remember a feeling of sadness sweep over me when I thought of my family whom I loved so much. I saw myself caught as though in a trap, and it occurred to me that I may never see them again. No, I had to keep my composure, 99 composure. All I have to do is find out how it transported us here. I'm bordering on stuttering, I choked the words out. I'm just wondering how we got here in the first place. Remember when I told you we made use of an airlock? That is accomplished similar to the way you humans pressurize an airplane cabin to fly across the globe, only a great deal more complex. We use this device to input coordinates and create these temporary rifts, so to speak, for us to enter these dimensions. It again reached for its belt. My mind flashed back to the clicking noises I heard coming from the belt before those people were killed. The device it removed was from a clasp on the belt was a thin rectangular box, similar to the shape of a cell phone but larger and so black it looked almost like a void in of itself. Yeah, this was it. This is how I can get out of here. Anyways, they are waiting for us. We must leave. Who is waiting for us? I said, trying to maintain the conversation, but my eyes were focused on the black box. I will introduce you in time. Follow me. It beckoned for me to follow while reattaching the device to the clasp of its belt. Lucky for me, the clasp was located towards the back of the belt. I could grab it while it is looking ahead. Are you coming? It looked back at me with a questioning glance. Yeah, where are we headed? I asked, inconspicuously. When she turned around again, I was going to make my move. We were headed to the mothership, as you might call it. Oh shit. It let its guard down and began walking. I followed. This is it. I held my breath, knowing full well these could be my last moments if I fell. I would unclasp the box, grab it, and run up the path behind us into the trees where I would hopefully be able to find some place to hide among the trees. Gathered all my courage, and it made a louder noise than I expected, but the clasp came freely open. I grabbed the black box, turned around, and ran faster than I have ever ran before in my entire life. What do you think you're doing? I heard it call out. I didn't hear it running after me, but I was too afraid to turn around and look. I knew the difference between us was perhaps thousands of generations. I knew it had the upper hand, but I was driven by primal fear at this point. I had to make it up this hill and find some place to hide. I reached the crest of the hill and ran off the path to my left and into the trees. Shit, it's getting intense. The music is very good. The trees changed, the temperature changed. It was like I was running from one world into another. I remembered what Tao had said about the puzzle pieces. Could I use this to my advantage? No. No time to think. I just need to find the best possible place to hide now. I ran and ran, but I was running out of energy. I couldn't keep this up. Just as I was thinking my heart would explode, it was then I found my saving grace. It was a primitive hut which looked like it may have been designed by one of the prehistoric looking humans we saw earlier. Didn't have time to think. I hoped more than anything else that this was abandoned. Tried to push through the metal door, but it wouldn't budge. Tried again. This thing really must be abandoned. The door won't open. Feeling fearful that I may be caught, I gave one last desperate push. And we got in. It opened. I went inside without a second thought and pushed the metal door back into place behind me. Oh god. Okay, this is scary. This is really good. I'm actually enjoying this. Tried to catch my breath. It was so quiet inside the shed that I felt like my heartbeat was echoing off the interior walls. Vines were all over the walls and floor of the shed, but due to the lack of light, looked like they had died quite some time ago. Put my ear to the walls of the shed and listened. Silence. Couldn't hear anything. Thank God, I made it. I should wait in here for a few hours before going out. While I'm at it, I can try to figure this thing out. I looked into my hands and saw the black box I had stolen from the alien. It was covered in dirt and sweat from the run. I wiped it off. It had no buttons, no identifier marks. I flipped it over in my hands looking for anything to turn it on. Nothing. I needed to rest. I could always look at it further in a few hours when I was ready to leave this building. I slumped down in the corner of the shed and tried to relax and get my thoughts together. I must have fallen asleep. I awoke suddenly not knowing how long I had slept. I was completely awake, fresh and alert, but good God, what time could it be? Lena was sleeping beside me, her fist closed, but then Lena always sleeps. I glanced out the window next to the bed, seeing the motion sensor light on the porch was shining into the window. I had no desire at all to go back to sleep. Besides, it was probably at least 5 in the morning. What had I been dreaming of? I thought it must not have been a particularly happy dream because I did not feel very positive this morning. Maybe it was the rain. I can't believe it's still raining, I muttered to myself. Be careful not to wake Lena as I slowly rolled out of bed and walked downstairs towards the kitchen. Wait a minute. Wait, have we just looped? What? Oh. The text is the text is the same, but the thing is different. I'm gonna mute my Discord audio as well. The wood paneling felt cold on my bare feet as I walked into the kitchen. I considered grabbing a banana off the counter, but there's something I wanted to check first. Glanced up at the old wooden clock that hung between the kitchen and the living room. Had the thing finally busted? The hands read 12:30 AM. I felt a tingling sensation on the back of my neck. I could have sworn it was at least 5 or 6 in the morning. Feeling a bit strange, I must have stood there staring up at the clock for at least a few minutes before it happened. What was that noise? It sounded like it came from my studio. I quickly turned around and saw something that made me forget about the sound I had just heard. Someone was outside my window. There's no one there. I walked quickly into my studio and went straight to the window where there was no one outside. This wasn't, however, the most confusing thing. I'm going to fucking kill you. Who do you think you are? You're, oh god, whoa. I am your god, whoa. What? Oh! Did I die? Why don't you trust me, Michelle? All you had to do was do what you were told. And now look at you. Pathetic. You didn't seriously think you could get away, did you? The door to the shed was ripped off the wall and was now where my lungs should be. I couldn't see the bottom half of my body because the door sliced completely through my ribcage and was pinning the upper half of my body to the wall. Don't worry, you will obey me next time. See you soon. I couldn't hear anything else she was saying. Her words blended together and my vision faded. Did I die? Bad end. Bad ending. Shit. You've reached the end of the playable demo of The Watchers. So what do you think? Anything you didn't like or you think could be improved, please give me feedback by clicking the red button that appears next. That was a really good experience, I won't lie. Normally I'm not a fan of those like text-based games, but that was really interesting. Now if there's an updated version I will find it, but hopefully there is, because that was really intriguing. And it's just all like the licensing and credits and stuff. But yeah, that was really good. I need to find more alien-based games because that was actually really good. Didn't even take that long to even play. I mean, it's been what, half an hour on recording? That's not even that bad. It could be a lot worse. Anyway, that has been The Watchers. Just a sweet little alien-based game. Hope you guys did enjoy me playing like more random, not so mainstream games. If you did, leave a like and subscribe if you're new. I've been Dark Knights. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Stay positive, whatever. And yeah, peace out.